Do I want to go look for a new car? No. Let me explain something. Going to the car dealership is somewhat of an event. I mean, for whatever reason, they feel it's necessary to keep you there all day, but that's not even the end of it. The problem I have with it is, I don't like to go outside, right? I hate the outdoors. So all the cars should be inside. No, I know they got the showroom. There's a few in there. They pick and choose what they want and don't want, or maybe the cleaner cars are in there or the better cars. I don't know that much about cars. The point is, though, it's like you get to be inside and they got the snack machines and the donuts and the coffee, but then you might have to go outside. And if the parking lot is huge and there's so many cars, you could be out there all day. I'd rather be inside. Steve Weiner here from GetRubix.com, and today we're going to make an update to our automatic Hyper-V creation PowerShell script thing. I don't think I gave it a name, but we're updating it. Now, if you play your cards right, you stay inside, the car dealership can be a tremendous experience.
Get Rubix, solving for the modern workplace.
Okay, so I believe a lot of folks remember my automatic Hyper-V creation script. It actually started with a blog. I originally got the idea from Oliver Kesselback. This is from 2020, and it's still going strong 4 years later. The idea is that we keep golden images of devices prepped the way we want them for testing Autopilot, and we can just automatically create virtual machines without having to do it manually each time. And we kind of refined the script and got it to this place where it was, automatically generating. And we even made a version where it spit out the Autopilot information for when we were testing device prep. Autopilot Device Preparation, also known as Autopilot V2, also known as, we're not really doing it that much, so we're going to leave it out of this version, or maybe I'll make it optional for you. But for whatever reason, there were some new things I wanted to do in this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate the script really quick, just to kind of go over the flow. So the way I have my device set up is, you can see I have this secondary drive, which is pretty big. It's a 2 terabyte drive. And I have 2 folders. I have templates, and templates are where I have all my, we'll call them golden masters. Windows 10 machines, Windows 11. I think I had a server at some point. So basically you just make the VM and sysprep. You make the VM and you sysprep it the way you want. I go through that part in a lot of detail. I'll put that video below in the link so you can check that out. So if you say, well, how do I make the VM and sysprep it? We got you covered. Okay, and then my other folder is just Hyper-V. I have virtual hard disks where the actual hard disks of that virtual machine go. And then we have the actual virtual machines folder. And inside there, we have all the virtual machine information. And then in the C drive at the source, I keep my create VM script that I want to go ahead and call on that accepts certain parameters. So let's open up PowerShell. We'll zoom in a little bit so everyone can see. And I'm going to call that C create, and it should pop up. First parameter is name. But I'm going to show you the new version here of what I want to do. So I just want to give it a simple name. So let's say I want to test the Zero Touch AI platform we've been working with, and I want to make a VM for that. I'm just going to call this Zero Touch AI. Actually, it looks like Zero Chai. Either way. Version, I want Windows 11, 23H2, and my CPU count is 4. So for me, the big change is I always like to put the first 4 of the serial number in my device name. So if I need to find it in Autopilot and Intune, I can look it up very quickly. The problem is we don't know the serial number before we make the machine because it hasn't been made yet, but I wanted it as part of the name. So I kind of got crafty and I said, okay, well, maybe I'll do some 4 random numbers and then I'll go rename it later. But then I thought, wait a minute, if we can get the serial number to export for the Autopilot device prep, why can't we just use that to go back and rename it? So that's exactly what we're doing. So you can see because of the verbose logging now, we're doing a few things. So we're getting a random temp number. I could probably zoom in on this a little bit bigger. Random temp number so that we can just start the VM. We're also getting the date. I find it's helpful if I can add a date to my VMs. Between the date and the serial number, they'll be very unique. So I create the temp name first, which is usually probably Zero Touch AI. The date, and then random string. It's going to go find that version of Windows 11 23H2. It's going to copy that into the VM it's making. We're going to set the default switch. We're making sure we have the right paths. You know, one thing I realized is that not everyone had the path set up correctly. And if you didn't, then the script would fail. Kind of the way I just showed you, the way I had, you know, virtual machines or virtual hard disks. So now the script is actually checking for that. Okay, and now that it's finished, you can see this is where it created the VM, and it gets the serial number. We trim the serial number down, and then we assemble a new name. So it's the name I gave it, it's the date, and it's the serial number. So if we go look in Hyper-V, there we go. Zero Touch AI 928 5658. And we're going to also set it up where if we give it the autopilot switch, it's going to give us the CSV right in here. So if we want to upload these to Autopilot V2 for testing, we can do that. All right, let's go ahead and assemble this. Now this is going to be available in the GitHub right now. I'm going to make a new folder called Hyper-V for it so you don't have to go fishing around. So if you just want to use the script and you don't care about making it, go use it, have a good time. But of course, as always, I'm going to take you through line by line how we write it. Some folks say it helps them with PowerShell, and I'm super happy if it does. Okay, I'm just going to put this on the desktop because I'm feeling super lazy. I'm going to call this create Hyper-V v3.ps1, and you can call this whatever you want, right? Just doesn't really matter. All right, so I don't know what that was. Few things we have to get out of the way. Let's figure out what we're doing, and let's hook it up here. So the first thing we're going to do is set parameters. We're going to build our log function because that's always helpful. Then we're going to set our drive functions. Set our drive volumes and paths. Set our drive volume and VM paths. Let's do that. Okay. We are going to then build the temp name, build the temp VM name, and do what we usually do. So we're gonna, essentially this is where we'll copy the GM disk, the gold master, build the VM. Then we'll have the optional Autopilot V2 info. And then finally, we'll set the new VM name. It's always good to do the comments first and frame this out. It's like folks who draw, they do the pencil sketch first before they do the actual ink. Whatever, that's my little way of kind of thinking about it. There I go into my Bob Ross territory. All right, so first thing is parameters. Parameter. We're going to make these, most of these are going to be mandatory. So true. I like to keep this one in the first position. Technically, it doesn't matter. Actually, there's no... Okay. Technically, it doesn't matter. But whatever, you know, string. So this will be the name. We can call it VM name. I've been calling it name. Okay. Our next parameter, which is mandatory, is going to be the version. Hold on. Mandatory is true. I like this in the second position. And it's going to be another string. And that's going to be the version. The CPU count. I actually don't remember why I do it as a parameter. Well, I guess if you want to switch it up, you can. I've been in situations where we've done that, but you could hard code that in if you want to. The more you do this, the more liberties you'll be able to take. Is that a string also? That is a string. I do that as a string. So that's CPU count. And finally, we're going to do the autopilot. This will be a false parameter, meaning you don't need to have it. Parameter mandatory equals false. Position is 4. And I did this as a switch. Switch autopilot equals false. Okay, so those are our parameters. All right, what we're going to do next is we're going to build our log function. So function log. Yep. Whoa. What was that? Function log. And inside the log function, we're going to have a parameter. That's going to be pretty simple, though. That'll be a mandatory one. Parameter. Mandatory equals true. And that'll be a string, and that'll be our actual log message. Okay, so whatever we type into the log function, we're going to put the date. That'll be a get date. Format, I like to do year, month. Same one we've been doing for the migration script. Seconds, and then, yeah, so I'm going to add TT to that, and that'll give us the AM, PM on top of that for the, not the military time, the other one, right? Output. Okay, so now our string, oh, no. So now we'll just write the output of date message, right? And that'll look like we saw it before when we were looking at the log, the verbose output. Okay, so set our volume. The volume you're going to hard code yourself. So I generally on my machines have 2 drives. So I'm going to make that D. But you can leave that to whatever you want to do. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to check for those paths. So I'm going to set 3 paths here. So my templates path, my virtual machines path, and my virtual hard disk path. Okay, so templates, we're going to leave it at volume. See, this is nice because you can just pick one volume for all your stuff. So volume, and we're going to do this in a templates folder. Virtual machines go in the same volume, and they're going to go in Hyper-V, virtual machines. And hard disks are going to go in volume, Hyper-V, virtual hard disks. Okay, so we got those, and now we have to, well, we're going to check them. We're not going to check templates because you have to have templates there as a prerequisite. So, you know, but the others we can kind of make on the fly if we have to. So let's log some of this out. Log Hyper-V volume is volume. So now we'll say checking for virtual machines. All right, so we're going to check for the virtual machines path, and there we're going to say if test path virtual machines. So if not test path, then we're going to log virtual machines not found, creating directory dot. And what we'll do there is we'll just do a try catch. So try to make dir virtual machines, real simple, right? And then we'll log directory virtual machines created. The catch will be, let's say we'll just log failed to create virtual machines. Actually, we could put an error in there. So we'll say virtual machines. Error is just the current error, whatever that iteration is that we're working on. A little space there. And we'll actually exit at that point because that'll indicate there's a problem. And then, of course, if it's already there, we're just going to say else. We're going to log directory virtual machines already exists. Cool. So we're going to copy the same thing for virtual hard disks. A little copy paste magic. And there we go. Same exact thing. All right, now we will generate our temp name first. So we'll say generating temporary VM name. And for that, we're going to do a number, and the number has to be 4 digits. So we're going to say get random minimum is 1000, maximum is 10,000. So it has to be somewhere between 1,000 and 9,999. And we're going to set that as a string. So we're saying number string equals number to string. Okay, we're going to take a date, and for that we're going to get the date, and the format though will be month, day, day. You can obviously use whatever format you want. And now we're going to say VM name. VM name equals our name, right? And that's our name parameter that we started with up there, right? So it's going to be name plus hyphen plus date plus hyphen plus number string. And we'll log that. Temporarily setting VM name to VM name. All right, cool. Now we have a temporary name. Copy the GM disk. So we're going to say log copying the version disk from templates. And this will be another try catch. So we're going to say try to copy item, and the path will be templates gm version, because that's how our disks are labeled, .vhdx. And the destination, now we take the gold master and we put the destination as in the virtual hard disk directory that we know we have now, and we're going to call it the VM name .vhdx. So we've cloned it with the VM name, and that's going to be an out null. And we'll say log disk copied to virtual hard disks. Oh, hard disks. And our catch will be log failed to copy disk to we'll have to do a virtual hard disks, and we'll do an error current iteration exit 1. All right, now we build the rest of the VM. I actually forgot, you can add, well, we could do it down here. If you could put it up top if you want. This is what I do. So we're going to define the switch name, virtual switch name. Just make sure whatever your Hyper-V switch is, you set it to. You could do this in the beginning, I guess. VM switch name equals. So mine will be default switch. Actually, let me see what my switch is on this machine. If you're not sure, you go to Hyper-V, Virtual Switch Manager. Okay, so mine is actually called VNet. It's the one I use. Okay, VNet. So we're gonna do VNet, but you put in whatever you're gonna make it. So we'll log that. We're using, we'll say using virtual switch VM switch name. Okay. Now we build the VM. All right, so first variable is the VHDX path, and that is whatever we just copied. So that's virtual hard disks / VM name dot VHDX. Log setting VHDX path to VHDX path. New VM, and we're just going to set the parameters as we normally would. The name is VM name, boot device is VHD, VHD path is VHDX path, path is virtual machines, generation is 2, our switch is our VM switch name. Then we're going to set VM, of course, VM name. VM name is VM name. Processor count is going to be the CPU count. Then we'll set the VM memory. And that will be VM name. VM name. Startup bytes. We're going to do 8 gigabytes. Obviously, do what you want here. Dynamic memory enabled. I do false because I like to keep it. I like to set the 8 gigs and leave it 8 gigs. I don't like them running amok in between there. Set VM security. This one is important for Windows 11 because you're going to need this there. This one is your virtualization based security opt-out. This is going to be false. We want the TPM on. So we need the virtual security on to start. And then set VM key protector. This is going to be a new local key protector. VM name. There's probably a cleaner way to do this, just to keep iterating through all these things, but it's the only way I know how. So enable the virtual machine TPM. This is going to be a yes for us, so that's pretty simple. We're just enabling that. Enable. This is going to be VM integration services for the VM name. And we're going to turn on guest so that we can use it. Guest service interface. And then what I do is I set the checkpoints. I don't like them, basically. I turn the checkpoints off. So automatic. Actually, that wasn't it. Automatic checkpoints enabled for me is false. And then I do an out host on that. Okay. So that's building our VM. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to kind of kill two birds with one stone here. So we're going to log. So if autopilot is true, what we're going to do is we are going to set the path. So export path equals, I'm going to put mine as C autopilot. And we're going to check for that. So log checking. Actually, we should probably put a log in the beginning here so we know log autopilot switch is enabled. Collecting hardware info for APv2 upload. Checking for export path. So now what we'll say is if test path, if that does not exist, we will say log export path does not exist, creating. We'll make the dir export path log export path directory created. Else we'll just say it already exists. Else log export path directory already exists. Okay, perfect. Next stop is to get the serial number. And we are going to do Right, so getting the serial number on a virtual machine is a little different than a physical machine. So what we have to do is say get WMI object, computer name, local host. Now the namespace, see, we're going to go deeper here. Root virtualization v2 class is MSVM virtual system setting data, where the object element name is equal to, in this case, it's the VM name. And then from there, we select the object, expand property, and it is BIOS serial number. So that'll be the serial number there. So we'll say log serial number for VM name is serial. Now the actual data that we're going to export is very simple. It's Microsoft Corporation virtual machine and serial. Because remember, this is a CSV in one string. So we're going to out that to the export path as a CSV. So we're going to set content path export path And we're going to call the file the VM name. VM name .csv. Value is our data. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we want to rename it first. Otherwise, the autopilot path will have the wrong thing in the export. So let's do that. All right, so this is going to be pretty simple for us to do. So we're actually going to take, either way, we need the serial number, right? So we're going to take that and we're going to get that up here. Now what we'll do, if it's true, is we don't have to get it again. We're just going to output our data because we have the serial number. Log Autopilot v2 data is data. Log exporting to CSV. Now what we'll do is we'll rename it up top so it'll have the correct name. So let's finish this. We'll say log exported APv2 data to export path VM name .csv. Okay, perfect. So now what we'll do, let's actually rename it up here. So we're going to say log renaming VM. So we have our serial, right? So we're going to get our, what we'll call the sub serial, which is going to equal serial substring, and that's going to be 0 to 4. And we'll call that out log trim serial number to sub serial. Set the new VM name is going to be equal to the original name we gave it plus hyphen. We'll leave the date plus hyphen plus, now we have the sub serial. So we'll say log new VM name. New VM name will be new name. And now we just have to rename it. So for that, we're going to do a try catch. And we should be good. So we're going to say rename VM. Name is VM name. New name is going to be new VM name. And we'll say log VM renamed to new VM name. And if we can't for some reason, we'll catch that down here. Log failed to rename VM to new name. Error. And then we will exit. We'll exit 0 on that one because we could always change that ourselves. That doesn't have to be catastrophic. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll just change these down here to the new VM name. Perfect. So let's see, export path, collecting hardware, and we set the VM name to up here. All right, well, look at us here. So let's go back through that, make sure everything looks good. We set our parameters, have our log function. Okay, we have our volume we set up there. All right, everything looks really good here. Building the VM. This was actually cool the way we caught that. So we got the serial and we're renaming it. And then if the switch is on, it's no big deal because we're going to catch it after the fact. If you hung in there with me, good job. I thought that one was cool. Being able to kind of do it in one shot to where we want. Do it in one shot to where we got the correct name we want. I don't have to go back and manually rename it after I boot to see the serial. And for V2 testing, we're collecting that automatically as well. So, like I said, killing two birds there. I know from the feedback, this method works well for a lot of folks, so I'm glad about that. If you have specific questions about that, anything else I do in the setup, feel free to hit me up. I do have a few different Hyper-V servers, so I keep this script on each one that I run. So at any time, I could just call that script and build a VM. Hop in the Discord, let me know what your thoughts are, and we'll be seeing you.